Here, 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 here.
Who isn't here?
Yeah, really.
Let's see, I know Tony's not here. And Chuck's not here because of sickness.
Mr. Chair, I can go ahead and call the roll.
Okay.
And then I'll be calling the votes as well.
That's not
Okay.
Turn your mic on.
Councilmember Groot Bogan,
Here.
Board Member Delange,
Here.
Board Member Tornatore,
Here.
Board Member Schmitz,
Here.
Board Member Lilly.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. Next item is approval of planning and zoning minutes for June 6, 2022. I had one addition to that, and that was to put that the alternate, Ms. Groot, was excused for that meeting. I'm not going to try and pronounce the last name, screw it up.
I never use it.
And so I was going to have Sherry add that to it,
Okay.
since she's out sick. I sent her an email on Friday. Other than that, is there any other motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last,
June 6th.
whatever, yeah.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Quasi judicial hearing. It's my favorite. Okay, we have a variance ZV 12022016, Max Beach Resort at 1903 South Atlantic Avenue. Stuart?
This is the easy part for me.
Oh, right before Stuart, I was supposed to ask if there's any ex parte communications by any member of the board on this issue.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Stuart?
John, do you need, Councilman, or City Attorney, Carrie, do you need to swear me in this morning, or?
Yeah, I guess Sherry's not here, is she? So, not only you, but anyone who's here on behalf of the applicant or from the public who would like to speak, if they could stand up and be sworn in, please. I do solemnly swear that I will or affirm that the statements I make today will be true and correct to the best of my knowledge and ability.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. For the record, my name is Stuart Cruz, City Planner with the City Community Services Director with the City of Daytona Beach Shores. The application that we have on the agenda at this moment is ZV 120222016, which is the Max Beach Resort located at 1901-1903 South Atlantic Avenue. So I think most people are familiar with this property. As I just mentioned, it's located at 1901-1903 South Atlantic Avenue. The owner applicant is 1901-1903 South Atlantic LLP. The property is fairly sizable. It is 1.33 acres. As we all know, it's located in the T-RMF-1 zoning district, which is a dual zoning district, which allows for hotel and multifamily residential development. The future land use, according to the comprehensive plan, is high intensity, and the current use, as you may know, is a hotel, which is a 73 Max Beach Resort hotel establishment. So, board members, if you saw in the agenda packet that staff submitted, in early May, the building inspector went out there to do a preliminary CO inspection, final CO inspection, and they noticed that the fence around the pool deck area was 7.5 feet in lieu of the 6 feet high requirement. Now, you may know that there's 48 inches required, a barrier that's required around the pool is 48 inches, but the city's land development code has additional requirements which says that the fences in the setbacks essentially have to be no higher than 6 feet. So on May 6th, what was in between May 4th and May 6th, we had conversations with the applicant's representative at the Storch Law Firm, Mr. Joey Posey, who is here today, and essentially the result was that a variance application was submitted to address the oversized zoning on May 6th. So the meeting was continued on June 8th, if you may recall, at the Planning and Zoning Board, and the reason for that is because due public notification, essentially the posting of the property in terms of having a sign on the property was not done in a timely manner, and so the meeting was continued to today's date. However, between June 8th and today's hearing, the certificate of occupancy was actually issued. And the reason why it was issued, just to avoid any confusion, is because the CO is issued on the basis of the Florida Building Code. And so the pool fence met that requirement of 48 inches in terms of having that barrier that's required under the Florida Building Code. And we're here today for a land development code issue. So the variance request, as you may have seen in your staff report, board members, is to permit an after-the-fact 7.5-foot high fence in the vicinity of the southern pool deck area in lieu of the maximum permitted 6 feet pursuant to section 14-14 of the city's land development code. So this is a screenshot of the city's land development code. It's section 14-44, subsection 1, and essentially it reads, fences, walls, and hedges are permitted in the required side yard and rear yards not exceeding 6 feet in height measured from the finished grade. So in terms of hearing and review requirements, the due public notice requirements have been met, and the requisite community services staff have reviewed, and their comments have been addressed. This is a site location map. You can see that the variance site, the Max Daytona, is located north of our site where we are today. This is where we're having this meeting. It's about, I want to say 2.8 miles, a 5-minute drive more or less. This is an aerial view. You can see this was actually taken from the property appraiser's website, 2020, when it was still under construction, but you basically can see it's on the west side of South Atlantic Avenue, in between the Fraser and the Roslyn side local streets, just north of Oceanside Inn. This is a street view from Google Maps. And on the lower left-hand corner, you can see essentially the fence area, the variance area in question, where the fence is located. This next exhibit shows the required setbacks area, so you can see that the fence location is actually in the required setbacks, and that's the reason why the 6-foot cap is actually of concern today. So this is an illustration of the pool deck area with regards to what the maximum requirement is in the setbacks compared to what was actually installed out there. You can see the 7.5 foot height. You can see that the requirement is 6 feet max. So there is a grade variation on the site, and if you look to the right corner, you can see that the grade is essentially equal, whereas from the center to the left exhibit, you can see that there is an unequal grade on the adjacent property of anywhere from 1.5 to 2 feet. And the reason why I show this exhibit is because it comes up later in terms of the staff's analysis. So there are 7 criteria, board members, you may recall, that the board has to consider when granting a variance. And those are articulated in section 14-63.8 A. And I'll go through the more important ones now. All of the criteria have been analyzed by staff and have been articulated in the staff report that you have before you this morning. So the first is that, and this is typically the most important one, is that special conditions or circumstances exist unique to the property. So the applicant in his application and during conversations have noted that there is a 1.5 to 2 foot grade variation that exists along the southern property line adjacent to the fence area, and essentially where the fence has been located on the actual property. When you consider the elevation difference or variation on the southern property, the effect of that variation, meaning that the property on the south, the Oceanside Inn, is actually anywhere from 1.5 foot to 2 feet. When you install the fence when the fence has been installed on the pool deck area, you actually end up with a fence that's 4.5 feet high. So you're not getting the maximum height that the city code allows in terms of 6 feet. So there's a difference of 2 to 1.5 feet. So staff was able to verify this. However, staff was unable to verify and establish that there is indeed a unique circumstance or special condition that regards the fence that separates the pool deck area. And just so I can show you real quickly. So if you can look at the mouse, where the equal grade is, the fence and the pool deck area, which is to the back side, to the right of this, they're essentially in the same grade, and so staff could not identify a special or unique circumstance in this area. However, in this area here, where you see the yellow lines, staff was able to establish the variation as a unique and special circumstance. So the second criterion is that special conditions or circumstances are not self-imposed or primarily economic or financial in nature. And obviously the grade differential is not, from staff's perspective, was not self-imposed. Obviously staff the developer couldn't go on the Oceanside Inn and level out that, that existing parking lot grade in that area. And so staff views that as a special circumstance that was not self-imposed. However, as I mentioned earlier, with regards to the equal grade where the pool deck area is, obviously that is something that was self-imposed. So the third criterion is that literal interpretation or enforcement would deprive applicant of zoning entitlements, and staff's opinion is that that is the case on the southern fence portion only, again, because of the grade differential. However, all fences within the city of Daytona Beach Shores have to meet this requirement, or not have to meet this requirement, but have the entitlement to build up to a 6-foot high fence. So because of the grade differential and because of this hardship that staff sees and views, it would essentially deprive the property owner of rights that are allowed in the same zoning district and throughout the city of Daytona Beach Shores, because every other property owner is allowed to build a 6-foot high fence in effect. However, on the southern property line, the property owner cannot get an effective 6-foot high fence, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So even though the fence is 7.5 feet, I'm sorry, even though if he were to build, the developer were to build a 6-foot high fence in that area, it would, because of the grade differential, he would end up with a 4.5 foot fence. And so that would not be equal to the entitlements that other property owners have in that area. So the fourth criterion is that if authorized, the variance will represent the minimum variance needed to afford the relief. And so the way the variance application is submitted, staff does not agree with that, because obviously the situation with regards to the pool deck area and the pool equipment area is not a hardship. And so there's no variance that's needed in that case, and that's the reason why staff doesn't agree with that particular, that the applicant has met that criterion. However, staff does believe that with regards to the southern property line area where the grade differential exists, that particular criterion is met. And so I'll jump over the other ones really quickly. In terms of the granting of this variance, the criterion is that the variance would not authorize or extend any non-conforming use or other non-conformity with regards to the property. Staff agrees with that criterion, and you can see the other criterion, which are articulated in your staff report. I'll not go over those, but you can see that those are met. So I typically try to summarize the criteria for the board to kind of help with the decision-making process. In this case, I've done something a little bit different that I haven't done in the past, in which I've separated the application of the criteria to the two portions of the fence. One is with regards to the fence on the southern property line, where staff believes that all the criteria are met. And then the other table looks at the criteria, the application of the criteria for the pool fence that separates the pool deck area and the pool equipment area. And as you can see, staff believes that only 4 of the criteria are met and 3 are partially met. So with that said, staff is recommending approval of the portion of the fence that is in the pool deck area that separates the pool deck area from the southern property line or from the Oceanside Inn. Whereas with regards to the pool deck fence separating the pool equipment area and the pool deck, staff is recommending denial because staff was unable to determine whether or not there was any unique hardship or special circumstance. If there's any questions for me, I'll be happy to take those. And I know that Mr. Joey Posey from the Storch Law Firm is here to represent the property owner at this time.
Are there any questions of Stuart?
It's kind of confusing.
What's the problem with bringing the grade up on the south side?
So the challenge with that is that it would have created stormwater, in my opinion, it would have created stormwater runoff issues. And it will also have had issues in terms of getting the DEP permit approved by the State Department of Environmental Protection. So in terms of managing stormwater on the site, it's my opinion, I'm not an engineer, but as a planner, I feel that it would have created some stormwater issues, and it would have probably resulted in difficulty getting DEP permit from the Department of Environmental Protection.
Thanks, Stuart.
What is the length of the pool deck fence separating the pool equipment? What is the length of that?
The length of that, I believe it is about maybe,
Because I was looking at it, I couldn't come up with this. Is 14 feet or?
I believe it was about 15 feet, 15 or 17 feet. I'll leave that question up to,
All right.
okay. For the record, Mr. Posey has confirmed that I was right in my guesstimate.
Can you explain to us, how do we come up with a 6-foot fence max and why?
So typically, local governments have a height restriction for public safety issues. So in effect, if someone were to fence their entire property, say 12 feet, for example, and there was an emergency and public safety or law enforcement had to enter the property, that probably could pose some challenge. And we know that anytime there's something that's a challenge when it comes to life safety issues in terms of rescue, for example, seconds matter. And that's generally the reason why local governments have a 6-foot maximum height requirement. Now, obviously, in extenuating circumstances in which you have security concerns, say at a public safety facility, for example, or at a lift station, for example, where there's critical infrastructure, typically there would be an exemption for public facilities to have a higher than 6-foot fence. So, for example, on Dunlawton Boulevard, the Volusia County beach storage facility, if you want to call it that, they actually have fences that are higher than 6 feet because they have critical equipment in there that they need to maintain and keep safe from the public, well, from ill public.
So my focus on that picture was there's no difference between a solid wood fence or one of those plastic versus a metal, meaning that the metal you can see and there's no difference. They're both going to with a 6-foot maximum height, right?
Yes, it doesn't matter the style of the fence or the make or construction type of the fence. The 6-foot requirement is a requirement in Daytona Beach Shores for fences that are established within the setback. However, the reason why those are rail, and I don't want to get off topic, is because it's also in the city's breezeway, or in the property's breezeway. And you may recall, for development on the east side for multifamily or condos, only rail fences are permitted in the breezeway in order to maintain the intent of the city's code with regards to breezeway. So, for example, if someone is looking from A1A, they can theoretically still see the beach because there's not a solid wall there.
So they're still getting their 6 foot by reducing that, even if they have to reduce it a foot and a half? Yes.
If they have to reduce it, the city doesn't care how they do it, as long as they meet the city's
Exactly.
code and bring it down to 6 feet.
Exactly. They
It's
can-
assuming the board decides to rule in their favor.
They could even bury it in the land.
I'm sorry?
By reducing the fence, they could also bury it a foot and a half without cutting off the whole fence. That's just my, I deal with construction all the time. So I
I'm not a
just-
fence guy, so I
Okay.
won't really comment on that, but anything is possible in theory, right?
Exactly.
But clarifying, that would be the pool deck, so you cannot really bury it, and they're recommending the side fence to be approved. So the city, the staff recommendation is the fence between the pool equipment not be approved. The other, they're saying to approve the other one. That's what the staff recommendation, correct?
Yes.
That's where my confusion stands, because that could be fairly easily done by lowering that side of the fence and leaving that other one.
So what staff is saying, just so we're clear, board members, if you'll indulge me, is that the fence, the portion of the fence that along the southern line of the property, staff believes there's a hardship. So staff is recommending that the board approves that particular portion of the variance. However, the portion of the variance or the fence that is between the pool deck and the pool equipment, because staff doesn't see justification for that with regards to the criteria that's established by the code, staff is recommending denial.
Any
Yeah.
further questions of Stuart?
Well, anyways, that's 7.5 foot on the pool deck between the equipment. Back in the old Spry days, you could jump over a 7.5 foot just as well as your 6 foot.
Maybe you can, not me.
If you really want to get over it, you can get over it. 1.5 foot is not going to make that much difference.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, if no further questions, then we have the applicant presentation.
The picture of both the fences would be perfect if you could. The other one. Do you have the other one? Perfect. Okay, that one's perfect. Good morning, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the property owners. And just to start off, I'm on the same page with Stuart. I understand where he's coming from, and from our perspective, wherever we end up today, we can live with the recommendation, but I do want to offer a few things just to give you a sense of where we're coming from when we're talking the 6 foot versus 7.5. If you look at the southerly property line, there's a parking lot there. So it is a little bit of a security concern for us that, you know, I'm not saying there's anything going on or anything. Oh,
It is on.
is it on?
Yes.
Okay, that there's anything happening or anything like that, but it's, you know, just trying to discourage an attractive nuisance with a very nice pool. That's part of the rationale for the 7.5, besides the difference in grade. As to the beach, the pool deck right here, the two things as well, it does kind of make sense if the fence is all the same height. Otherwise, you have a funny looking height differential between the fences. But if you, I don't know if you've been out there lately, but we've started to see an interesting phenomenon going on here. That when you look at this from A1A, it looks like a beach access. And you're getting a lot of folks wandering up to the deck, wandering up to the fence saying, oh, this I should be able to go over to the beach. And they're quickly find out that they're not allowed, it's private property. So part of what we decided on the fence is that, well, if it's a little higher, maybe folks will understand that, you know, although there's a visual, you can see the beach and everything, this isn't supposed to functionally be the public beach access. So that was a little bit of what's occurring out there, and I think that the fence is a little bit of a deterrent rather than having the 6 foot. And again, it's the same idea as the safety concern that, you know, we're trying to discourage folks from just coming onto the beach, have it very nice looking, but at the same time, we don't want folks to think that, oh, we can get onto the deck and that this is public area. But wherever we end up today, again, we're on the same page with staff, and I understand your guys' concerns too on where this could fall. On the 6 foot mentioning of, you know, 6 foot's usually what I see in a residential category, and, you know, Daytona Beach Shores is a little unique being on the beach side and everything, but, you know, you could easily functionally have a building exceed a 6 foot high fence minimum just by the functional of the face facade of the building, on the side yard setbacks, and, you know, in a hotel category, and you know, this is a very commercial category, so it's not unusual in a lot of areas where you would see sometimes a fence higher than 6 foot. So I just wanted to make that clarification, and again, I'm not speaking for the Shores in particular on, you know, the rationale of the code and why it is what it is, but those are the little pieces that I wanted to offer, and if there's any questions that you had, I'm happy to answer them, and you know, just hopefully, you know, that they're real excited. It's been a success so far, so, you know, they want to be good neighbors too, so.
I have a question. You were indicating about your concerns with, you know, somebody intruding and looking. Is there cameras in that area?
It would be speculation, but I imagine there are, but I'd have to have the owner here to verify that, but I don't know. And that is a good point, that, you know, making sure that it's secure, but at the same time, if you can prevent the attractive nuisance, that it's probably in everybody's best interest too.
Question. How, on the south side, how far does that fence run on the property line?
Just to the end of the pool deck. So as the
What happens after the pool deck?
it turns, and there's another fencing that's compliant with code on that side. But there's quite a drop off there, so it's not nearly as big a concern from the beach
So
side.
if you walk that fence on the south side, you still can't make a turn onto the property and get into the pool deck?
No, you'd have to go through that access right there.
You have an estimated cost on how much it would cost the property to reduce the fencing from 7.5 currently to 6 foot?
I don't, but just to be fair, it probably wouldn't be that difficult considering, I don't want to embellish it, so I imagine it wouldn't be that difficult for us to fix that if we needed to. We'd prefer not to, obviously, but, you know, I'm probably talking against myself at this point.
What is the height of the gate?
The height of the gate? That gate right there is the, I think it's the 4 foot. I think that one's the 4 foot. I think that's the minimum. So that's always another option too. I guess you could bring the gate up too, but again, it's just a little bit of trial and error that's occurring out there at this moment. trying to figure out, how do we make it so it's, nice, it's, folks can see it, but at the same time, they're not encouraged to wander up there and interact with residents, so.
Any further questions of the applicant? Thank you. The next is to call for any public input in favor of the project. Seeing none, then call for public input as opposed to the project. And seeing none, then the hearing will be closed. Discussion among board members.
I do have a question. How do we make a motion to approve the staff recommendation? I'm a little confused. It says, to move to approve special exception as presented, because the staff presented to approve the south, but not the one between the pool. So that's the special exception?
I think that was their suggested motion number 2.
On the
Okay.
condition that it only applied to the southerly.
Yes. So by by doing a motion number 2, you're approving the staff recommendation.
No, if you do number
It would
3,
specifically state.
number 3, you're denying it, and then you're approving the southerly section.
That's
Mr.
my
Attorney,
question.
Don't we,
I don't have that in front of me, so I'm not sure
That's
what.
my question.
well, they deny it based on their,
The planner.
Stuart is going to explain it.
gotcha.
So in the staff recommendation that you see in the staff report, the recommendation was to deny the variance application as presented. However, to approve that portion of the fence variance that relates to the southern property line separating the pool deck area.
So you do number 3.
That's the question. Is it number 3 or number 2 as far as suggested motion?
Number 3, you deny it. and-
It would be, it would be number 2.
On the condition it applies only to the fence along the
Condition says. I
Well,
have
that's
one.
why.
Thank you, Judge.
You deny it, and then you would say, based on, that's what they suggested in here, but, okay.
And that's staff's recommendation. Obviously, the board is the one that actually gets to apply this criteria. And if the board finds that the criteria is met or not met or partially met, then the board would formulate its recommendation from that point.
So number 1 would approve it as requested by the applicant, so all the way around. Number 3 would deny it all the way around, and number 2 would be, if
Oh,
you
okay.
wanted to approve it as the city planner recommended with approving was it the south one that would be approved? Denied.
Thank you. Okay, good.
Okay, so I'll make a motion. I move to approve special exception SPEX 12022-013 with the following conditions to approval of the south.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I really hate to interrupt, I'm sorry. That's number 2 on the agenda. This is item number 1, the variance application.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I move to approve variance ZV 12022-016 on the condition of the following, just to approve the southern fence and not the fence between the pool equipment and the pool.
I'll look at legal counsel to see if that motion is substantial.
I mean, I think they could just make a recommendation to approve as presented by staff, and that would cover it because it's in the report.
That was my question to start.
I think that'd be easiest since it's already in the written report.
Okay.
It'll be entirely clear what it is that you're approving.
Would you like to?
Once again, thank you. Okay, so I move to approve variance ZV 12022-016 on the recommendation of staff. Is that correct?
That's good.
Yes, and just to clarify, maybe say approving in part and denying in part as recommended by staff, so that we're perfectly clear.
Is there a second?
Second.
Stuart, would you call the roll?
Board Member Group Deneau?
Concur, approve.
Board Member DeLonge?
Approve.
Board Member Pintori?
Yes.
Board Member Lilly,
Yes.
Chairman Schmitz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is a special exception, SPEX 12022013, Max Beach Resort at 1903 South Atlantic Avenue. Again, any ex parte communications from anybody on the board? Okay. Stuart, then?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, my name is Stuart Cruz, City Planner with the City Community Services Director, muscle memory, brain memory. It's all programmed in there. Community Services Director with the City of Daytona Beach Shores. I'm going to skip over a lot of the background, but just for the record, this is special exception SPS 120222013. The subject is Max Beach Resort, located at 1901-1903 South Atlantic Avenue. As I mentioned, I'm going to skip over a lot of the background since we've already established what the Max Daytona is and what the entitlements are. However, the origin of this particular application was a sign permit that was submitted in the mid-April of this year. Through that process, the applicant was notified that a special exception was required. So the sign permit was for the establishment of a mural in the pool deck area of the property. And as such, after that notification, a special exception application was submitted on May 6th by the applicant owner. And the special exception request, as I mentioned earlier, is to permit the application of an original mural on the wall located on the east side of the property adjacent to the pool deck spa area. There is a note, special note, and you may have seen it throughout my staff report, if you have before you board members, is that if the mural is approved, it would only be visible to guests on the property and potentially beachgoers in the vicinity. So in terms of hearing and review requirements, staff has reviewed this and due public notice has been met and satisfied by the applicant. So I'm going to skip over some of this. We all know where the Max Daytona or Max Resort is located. However, this is the area that is subject to the special exception. You can see the wall right here. And all these photographs are provided by drone footage by the applicant. So this is a rendering of where the mural area is and the actual footage. So you may recall that there's a 30% requirement, maximum requirement in the city's code with regards to the area that a mural can occupy in any wall or building face. And as you can see, based on the calculations provided by the applicant, that number has been met. This is a mock-up or a rendering of what the mural would look like in the pool deck area. I'm not going to go over all the requirement that are articulated, that is articulated in the city's land development code, section 14-43 and section 14-58. Those are outlined in your staff report, and the reason why I'm not doing it is because in staff's opinion, all of those requirements are met. And as such, staff is recommending approval as presented. If there's any questions for staff, I'll be happy to take those, and of course, Mr. Posey is here as well to take any questions that the board may have.
I have one, Stuart. When I read the page presented by the permit application for the mural, my main question is, it seems like when we've had these before us before, we've had a little more formal commitment about maintenance and how it's going to happen. This one's kind of informal. It says they'll check on it every 2 years and do maintenance if needed. That kind of is loose to me.
Correct, and the board can prescribe in their recommendation that a formal maintenance agreement be submitted to the city as well, and I'll leave that up to John.
Yeah, that's perfect for variance to have conditions like that.
Special exception, yes.
Special exception, excuse me.
That was my concern as well, because the other two murals that we have approved, we've always had the speculation to make sure that we have hurricane damage, because we do live in a very heavily wind area that can damage the mural. So totally agree that that statement should be added or pursued.
If there's any more questions for staff, I'm sure the applicant can speak to that a little bit more.
Okay. Do we have the applicant presentation again?
Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the owners. That's not, no problem. We're all right with entering in a maintenance agreement, I guess, if it's more stringent. We just didn't actually contemplate that far, so that's not a problem. And then the other side of this too is, we wish we could have done it bigger, but in terms of the mural, but it came out beautiful. We're happy with it, and hopefully you guys are too, because I think it'll look real nice from the beach and from the deck there on where the pool is. So. But I'm available for questions.
Clarification, it hasn't been painted yet, right?
No, it has not.
Okay, the way you said it, I thought, wait a
The
minute.
town is eager to get started.
Any other questions from the board?
I agree with the maintenance thing. My question right now would be, is that agreement going to be between the developer and the painter, or the homeowners association and the painter?
Is there a homeowner association?
There
on the-
will be a
the
homeowner, there
resort?
will be a homeowners association.
I imagine the city.
So it would be a city agreement.
Right.
So
With who?
I'll leave that up to the city attorney, but generally it would be with the city, and it would be the property owner. So the property owner would have to show evidence to the city that they have their own agreement with with someone who is qualified, a professional that can do this work as well.
So it'd be the association.
There's no association, to my knowledge.
Resort.
Joey, do you want to-
Right, yeah,
Resort,
since
yeah.
this is a resort, it's a wholly developer-owned, so in this case, unless the city attorney directs otherwise, I would think this would be with the property owner and the city on the ongoing maintenance.
Yeah.
That gives the city all the abilities to enforce an agreement against the property too, so.
Thank you.
Do we need to call for public input in favor of the project? And if seeing none, we need to call for any public input opposed to the project. Again, seeing none, we'll close the hearing. Any discussion between board members? In that case, could I ask for a motion?
I move to approve special exception SPEX 120222013 with the condition that the property owner enter into a maintenance agreement for the mural.
Do you have a second?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Fine.
Stuart, would you call the roll, please?
Board Member Groot, Minot?
Approve?
Board Member Delange?
Approve, yes.
Board Member Torres?
Yes.
Board Member Lilly?
Yes.
Chairman Schmitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next item, and last item, is a regular site plan, RSP 121021034, Villa Cardinal Townhomes at 3723 Cardinal Boulevard. Stuart, good to see you again.
Mr. Chair, board members, let's see if I can get it right this time. For the record, my name is Stuart Cruz, Community Services Director with the City of Beach Shores. So this particular application is regular site plan RSP 120211034 Villa Cardinal Townhomes located at 3723 Cardinal Boulevard. So this property, as I mentioned, is at 3723 Cardinal Boulevard. The owner applicant is KLDBS LLC, and Ursula Herman, who is the managing member, is here today with us. The property size is just under quarter acre. The zoning district is RMF-2, which is our multifamily residential medium density district. The future land use, according to the comprehensive plan, is medium density residential. The property is currently vacant, and the proposed use is a multifamily residential development, basically a 4-unit townhome development. So, board members, as typically note in any site plan, the staff report that you have before you have analysis, a complete analysis by staff in terms of the land development code requirements relative to the application that has been submitted. This is just a summary analysis, this table that you see here. And as you can see on the far right-hand side in the column, all the major criteria have been met. I'll just go over these real quickly. In terms of the use, the property, as I mentioned earlier, allows for multifamily residential. In terms of the density, 4 townhomes are allowed on this site, and 4 townhomes are being proposed. In terms of lot coverage, there's a maximum cap at 35%, and 33.2% is what's actually being proposed in terms of the building footprint or lot coverage. The maximum height is 35 feet, and as you can see, 34.6 feet is being proposed in terms of the height. In terms of parking requirements, there are 8 spaces that are proposed, and 6 spaces is the minimum that's required by the code. In terms of the floor area, based on the number of units, the code only requires 800 square feet, and then if you, when I'll show you the exhibits, and I think you may have seen, no, actually I didn't include it in the staff report. The floor area that's actually being proposed is 1,821 square feet. In terms of green area, there's no green area requirement, but the applicant is actually proposing almost 50%. You can see 44.5% is actually going to be green area on the site. And in terms of setbacks, you can see all of those requirements are met. One thing I'd like to highlight is that this particular development, as proposed, is consistent with the city's land development code and also consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. And of course, a detailed analysis, the checklist that I have included in your staff report shows that. So in terms of comprehensive plan consistency, public notice requirements, and requisite staff review, including public safety, including our city engineer, including the building department, everyone has reviewed this and all our comments have been addressed. So this property here, it's a little bit, I want to say 1.5 miles south of where we are today. It's about a 5-minute drive, and the reason for that, even though it's a shorter distance than the max, is because obviously we have to cross Dunlawton. If you know where the Aruba condo is on A1A, if you just take a turn and you look towards the Halifax River, you'll see the Atlantic Shores Motel, and it's the property just west of that. So the property is in between Cardinal Boulevard and Atlantic Shores Motel, just south of the A1A condos. And as you can see, it's an aerial photograph that shows that the property is currently vacant. This view that you see here from the street was actually taken on Saturday. And so this gives you a better idea as to what the site looks like today. So this is the proposed site plan. And I've added a color outline of the building footprint. You can see there's 4 access points on the property, and the reason for this is because they're going to be townhomes and they're going to be sold fee simple. So every property will have its own access. Every lot, I should say, will have its own access. So in terms of stormwater, you can see it's a combination of 3 different measures. There's underground, there's an underground system, and obviously there is a above surface retention, and there's also natural infiltration that would occur in terms of managing the stormwater on the site. In terms of the landscape plan exceeds the city's requirements. You can see that only 4 trees are required on this property, but 13 are being proposed. And that's a combination of woody and palm trees. The tree mixture is, we're only required to impose a 1 tree mix on the site, but over 3 different types of trees are being proposed. The green areas I mentioned earlier, even though that's not a requirement by the city codes for this particular zoning district, is proposed at 44.5%. And in terms of buffering, staff has analyzed the site and ensured that all buffering requirements required under the city's landscape and code have been satisfied. So it's a 3-floor townhome, and if you start from the left going over to the right, you can see the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floor. You can see on the 1st floor there's a garage and a utility room, and these are the end unit floor plans. Just wanted to highlight. So it's basically a 2, 2.5, 1. So basically what that means is 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and 1 garage. So on the 2nd floor, if I can get the mouse to move, you can see the live-in, you can see a study, and you can see the kitchen and a half bath or the powder room. And then on the 3rd floor, you can see a bath, bedroom, and 2 bedrooms and another bath. One thing I did want to note is that all levels essentially have either like a patio or a balcony or some other feature in both the east and the west side for outside or external view. So this is the proposed plan for the interior units, the 2 in the middle, and essentially they're almost the same. They're 2, 2.5, and 1 as well. As you can see, the square footage for the units under ICE or AC hovers around 1,800 for both units. So this is a proposed elevation. As you can see, the building height meets the city's requirements. But obviously, in ink and paper, you know, that doesn't really tell you much. So the owner was kind enough to provide a color elevation, and this is a street view of what it would look like. This is a southeast view of what it would look like. So if you're looking up north on the east corner, and then this is the northeast view, meaning if you're looking south in the northeast corner, what it would look like. Because of the fact that it's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and land development code requirements, staff is recommending approval as presented. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take those. And I know the owner and her engineer are here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Stuart, would you back the picture up one?
I'm sorry, which one?
Would you back up one? I know I had to ask this question earlier. That picture shows that there would be nothing around the pool, but you said come building permit time, there would be fencing and whatnot to prevent.
That is correct. So you know, obviously this is just a rendering. Typically, details of that nature are not included in the site plan application or in any rendering or mock-up of that nature. But you're definitely correct. Anytime a pool permit is pulled or a building permit is pulled in any city in the state of Florida, and definitely here in the city of Daytona Beach Shores, you know, all the requirements of Florida Building Code, including the barrier system, for security purposes and safety purposes, you know, are a requirement, and the permit would not be issued without those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about timeline. So how soon are they going to start clearing construction? Is there a timeline?
I'll leave that up to the property owner when they have the opportunity to speak.
They have 18 months or something like that.
So that's a good point. So whenever a site plan is approved by the city, essentially it's 2 years to initiate construction. But you know, my guess is that they'll probably want to start sooner. So I'll leave that up to the property owner to speak specifically to that question.
Any other questions of staff? Thank you, Stuart. Can we have the applicant come forward?
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can we go ahead and swear both of you in real quick? I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this hearing.
And please state your name and address.
Ursula Mon, 6510 Cypress Springs Parkway, Orange. And I'm excited to be here with Noel, my engineer. And yeah, in regards to timing, well, as we get that approved, we are already working on construction drawings. And as soon as we have those, we want to go in and ask for a construction permit and plan on, if everything works well, with financing and plans to go and start building, hopefully by the end of this year.
Any other questions of the applicant? Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion between board members on this? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move to recommend approval of RSP 12-102-1034 as presented.
Second.
Stuart, please call the roll.
Board Member Bruno?
Yes.
Board Member Delange?
Yes.
Board Member Commissioner?
Yes.
Board Member Lilly?
Yes.
Chairman Schmitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good job, Stuart.
Good looking property.
Yes, it is. That neighborhood. Okay, any other board comments before we close? That would be for everybody.
Say that again?
Any other board comments before we close?
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, when is our next meeting? In August, or will you have a?
The next meeting is scheduled for the second Monday of August. The exact date, unfortunately, I don't have that.
No problem.
Okay, seeing as how there's no other business, motion to adjourn.